March 21st. Roll call, please.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Here.
Verhaelen.
Here.
Tillman.
Here.
Gale.
Here.
Guzekowski.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd all rise. Are there any veterans here? No? We'll ask the fire chief to begin the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Approval of minutes.
This was usually you, Dan.
Yeah, it usually is, but I can't do it anymore.
Verhaelen makes a motion to approve the minutes of 3/7/17.
Kirkowski will second. Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye. Moving right on to item number 4, we have a resolution to, in recognition of appreciation to Steve Scafidi, our former mayor. With that, I'd like the city clerk to please read the resolution.
Resolution number 11803-032-117. Resolution of appreciation to Stephen A. Scafidi. Whereas Stephen A. Scafidi was elected mayor on April 3rd, 2012, and has served the city of Oak Creek and its constituents for 5 years. And whereas Stephen A. Scafidi previously served the city of Oak Creek as 3rd District Alderman from April 2009 until April 2012. And whereas during his time as mayor, Stephen A. Scafidi presided over significant and controversial Common Council decisions, serving with the best interests of the city. And whereas Stephen A. Scafidi was instrumental in relocating and building a new city hall, city library, and a fire station, revitalizing the AC Delco land, bringing the vision of Drexeltown Square to the heart of Oak Creek, creating and implementing the City Landscape and Beautification Awards to both residents and businesses, representing the city at numerous businesses, schools, churches, charities, and community organization activities and events, and representing the city during the tragic event at the Sikh Temple in August 2012. And whereas Stephen A. Scafidi has gained positive media recognition for the city, earning the respect of the leaders of Milwaukee County municipalities and government leaders at the county and state level. And whereas Stephen A. Scafidi represented the city of Oak Creek as president and chair of the Intergovernmental Cooperation Council. And whereas Stephen A. Scafidi was named the 2016 Milwaukee Municipal Executive of the Year by the Milwaukee Business Journal. And now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and common council of the city of Oak Creek that on behalf of themselves and the citizens of the city, their sincere appreciation be, and the same is hereby extended, to Stephen A. Scafidi for his service to the city. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and the city clerk is hereby directed to transmit a suitable copy thereof to Stephen A. Scafidi. Introduced at a regular meeting of the Common Council of the city of Oak Creek, held this 24th day of March 2017.
Thank you. Before I call for a motion, would the alderman like to interject anything on Steve's behalf? Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I served with Steve his whole term, and when he was an alderman, and when when the term served is used in this resolution, it means a lot more than just the word itself, because the job of mayor, and I've seen 4 mayors now, the job has morphed from a part-time job into a full-time job. So anybody that takes that seat has a real commitment to the city. They're not doing it for the money. They're doing it to serve this city, and Steve did one heck of a job, in my opinion. Thank you.
Steve Kirkowski.
I think I want to echo what Alderman Tillman said. Shortly after Steve said he was going to resign, some residents were saying, well, why couldn't he do both? Because the mayor's job is part-time, and he's taken on this so-called part-time job at the radio station. And my response is, well, it's more of a full-time job at the radio station, and it has been a full-time job being mayor because it's technically part-time, but he's there in the morning, he's at meetings all over the county, and he's answering emails and phone calls at the house at night. So he did a great job at trying to balance a part-time job, literally a full-time job on a part-time salary.
Thank you. Alderman Guzekowski.
I was just going to mention that, in my opinion, Steve was just the right person for the right time. So he just made things come together in a way that we needed. And now it's time to take the torch and keep it moving forward.
Al?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Steve and I were elected, in the same cycle back in 2009, and it's been obviously a very eventful 8 years since that time frame. It's been a pleasure to work with Steve. We've obviously accomplished a lot. Onward to a new term. He was a tremendous champion for the city and a tremendous advocate for our citizenry, and it was a hell of a run for him. So, with that said, onward.
I'd like to invite clerk or city attorney.
I can just say sincerely, with the council sitting here, alderpersons past, I've sat through a couple of mayors myself now, but I think the leadership is consistent with where we've been and where we're going. So thank you, Steve Scafidi, and look forward to what the next steps bring.
I'm guilty of penning a lot of that resolution, so a lot of his accomplishments and things that I really looked up to in our mayor were in that resolution. I will miss him dearly.
I'll invite staff if you have anything. If not, I'll give my 2 cents. Bridget? Okay, I'd like to thank Mayor Scafidi. He was a very strong leader for the city. He took us through one of the darker periods of the city's history. He also led us to some of the most prosperous. Steve was a very strong leader, very committed to the city. He really, as it was mentioned already up here, he did not do this for the money. He really was born and raised in Oak Creek. His heart and his commitment was with Oak Creek, and I think it showed in the job he did. I wish him all the best in his future endeavors, and the things he did for Oak Creek will be greatly appreciated for generations to come. Thank you, Mayor Steve. With that, I'll ask for a roll call, or a motion, I'm sorry.
Gail will move to approve resolution 11803-032117, a resolution of appreciation to Stephen A. Scafidi.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call?
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye. Thank you. Moving right along, we're going to the public hearings. Item number 5, we have a rezone conditional use permit. To consider a request from Greg Thompson, Storage Shop USA, to rezone the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street from RS2 Single Family Residential to M1 Manufacturing, and approve a conditional use permit allowing a contractor's office, yards, and shops without outdoor storage at the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street in the First District. As this is a public hearing, we will have 3 calls. If you do wish to speak on an item listed on tonight's agenda, please complete a comment form and return it to the city clerk, and you'll be called in the order they're turned in.
Public hearing number 1 is to consider a request submitted by Greg Thompson, Storage Shop USA, to rezone the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street from RS2 Single Family Residential to M1 Manufacturing, and to approve a conditional use permit allowing a contractor's office, yards, and shops without outdoor storage on the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street. The applicant is Greg Thompson, Storage Shop USA, property owner, Storage Shop USA, Oak Creek LLC. There follows the legal description. Date of notice is February 23rd, 2017.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Doug Seymour. I'm the Director of Community Development for the city, and this is a public hearing and request to rezone the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street from RS2 Single Family Residential to M1 Manufacturing, along with a conditional use permit for a contractor's office, shop, and yard in a condominium development with no outdoor storage. At their January meeting, the Common Council approved an amendment to the comprehensive plan for these properties that changed the planned land use category and map from a planned office to planned industrial. So the proposed type of use will be a residentially designed kind of side-by-side office storage buildings Not really to be confused with traditional self-storage that you see, anywhere else in Oak Creek and elsewhere. I mean, this would be a condominium development where people would buy a portion of that building so they could run their business. They could do their storage. They could have their small contractors equipment in there, what have you. Just to reiterate, although that's the proposal at this point in time, we do not have site and building plans. Those would come at a later date after the properties were rezoned and the conditions was granted. Then those would be brought forward to the Plan Commission at a later date, and the Plan Commission would be responsible for reviewing the details of that, whether it's the landscaping, the lighting, the architecture of the buildings, the stormwater, things of that nature. So again, the mayor has indicated that this is a public hearing and has asked that anyone who has any questions or comments regarding the proposal to please fill out an appearance form, and to, when your name is called, to please approach the podium and proceed to address your questions and or comments to the Common Council. This public hearing is now open.
Thank you very much, Doug. I will make the first call. We do have one that was emailed in. The resident requested be read into the records at this time. City Clerk will read it into the record.
This email is from Cheryl Walsh, 8313 South Palomino Court, Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Dear Ms. Reske, this email is a follow-up to our phone conversation today. We own the two properties immediately to the west along the Austin Street right-of-way. Years back, when Midwest Express built the existing office building to the south, the surface water runoff was allowed to empty into our properties. The building construction further blocked the natural runoff of the Oak Street properties to an existing wetland to the east of the building. Since that point, water has become trapped on our properties, creating a new wetland and now designated so by the DNR. And it's been further exacerbated by additional hard service parking area at the building. The city claimed back then, when we raised the issue, that they would rectify the problem and reestablish the national drainage of our property. The situation was not rectified. There are two questions here, so I'm not quite sure. Do you want me to go ahead and read those?
You can read them and then we'll address them later on.
Okay. Number one question, how will you ensure that no additional drainage ends up on our property? And will anything be finally done to rectify the trapped water? I would also like to build on those properties, but I'm being forced to pay taxes on property for usage by everyone in the area to use as a retention pond. Question number two was, will the additional sewer and water load on the mains we installed for our building purposes be placed at the mains capacity as a result of the building project on the south side of Oak Street? Does this project in any way limit our ability to continue our construction on the north side of the street?
Catherine, what was the address on that?
8313 South Palomino Court.
We will address those questions after the public hearing. We'll make the second call. Third call. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we will move on to item number 6. It is a consideration of ordinance number 2845 approving the rezoning of properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street from RS2 single residential to M1 manufacturing with a conditional use for a contractor's office, shop, and yards in a condominium development with no outdoor storage in the first district. At this time, open it up for comments. Alderman Kirkowski.
Catherine, could you please repeat the location of the properties that the resident has relative to the two here that we're talking about? Where are the ones that she owns?
So,
Here? What's this is east right here?
the two properties immediately to the west along the Austin Street right-of-way.
Okay, to the west, got it. The question I got about this, Doug, is if, say, somebody buys one of these condominium storage facilities and is self-employed in the woodworking business, is he going to be able to bring in all his woodworking stuff and make stuff out of these units, create a business type atmosphere, or is it simply storage and?
No, provided that it is entirely within the enclosed building, they are able to do that in that zoning district.
potentially it's not just a storage facility then. I mean, it's this new concept of a condominium storage facility, but we're going to allow people to make stuff there.
Right, but you have to recall that the underlying zoning district would at that point be manufacturing.
Yeah, but then why are we calling it a condominium type storage facility of sorts? I mean,
Because that's what the conditional use permit would authorize. The conditional use permit would authorize that type of use in addition to any other use that's permitted in the M1 zoning district. Now, granted that many of those uses would be restricted just because of the size of the parcel, but certainly, I mean, anything, if you were to, for instance, as you mentioned, had a small woodworking shop, that would be allowable as a permitted use in the M1 zoning district, therefore would be a permitted use in the underlying zoning district for this conditional use as well.
automotive repair.
No.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah. Alderman Verhaelen.
As to the wetlands question, well, this would go to Doug as well. Are they required to put any stormwater detention on the property here or no?
Well, actually, I would defer that question to the city engineer because there is a threshold upon which you do require stormwater management. I do believe that, and again, not seeing any site plans, I can't definitively answer that question, but I do believe that they would be required to provide stormwater for this development, but Mike can confirm that.
Sure. Just purely sketching out the area of the, looks like what's going to be the impervious area, they would be over the threshold, which is a half of acre of impervious area added to the property. But it's close. So if they're creative, they might be able to stay under that threshold.
Well, with that being said, are we looking at full build out of this property with the 5 buildings, or will they be allowed to possibly in the future build maybe 2 or 3 more buildings there? And then there won't be any room for any stormwater detention the way I see it, or very little.
That's entirely driven by the site plan, Alderman, and we wouldn't be able to perform that analysis until we saw the submitted site plans.
Right. And then the last question, if they do happen to move around, and I know this it's a pertinent question, but the question I'm going to ask isn't on their property, but the people that wrote the comments here in regards to the wetlands that are on their property. Do you know if these were existing before, or if they were something that was created by filling or something on the adjacent lots? And if they were, do you know if they were ever delineated? I know this isn't on the property that's being developed, but it makes a lot of difference.
I don't have any information as to when those might have been created. I think Mike has some information on that.
Yes, we were aware of these questions and so we looked into it, and from everything that we have at our disposal, which is a series of historical contour maps and even aerial photography, a lot of evidence that everything drained to that area previously, and additionally that area was always wet. And I brought it up on the screen. Even with this site, this is the McCandless site, it can show you historical photos, and these go back to 1937. So I'll try and scroll back here. But what you have before you on the screen, before I do that, the 2 properties that the questions come from are listed as 301 and 6730. You can see that, and that the shape that you see there is basically the wetlands as most recently delineated. And you can see how they do encircle the green area, kind of the wet area where the growth is. And so as we go back, you can kind of see how that is going through the years. This is 2005. This is 1995. The photography is not as good, but you can still see that area, how it has been wet. And that's 1963. This is 1937. I can turn that shape off, but I think underneath you could still see that shape. And not only is it there, it's about that same size. So don't think that it's grown really at all.
All right,
in
that,
many,
that
many
kind of
decades.
answers my question, because if the people in the neighboring properties were to develop, DNR and everybody else would look at this thing and probably come up with the same answer you just gave me.
Nothing. Mike, just going back to the public hearing with the questions, I'm going to reread them, and then if you could address them. The first question is, how will you ensure that no additional drainage ends up on our property? And will anything be finally done to rectify the trapped water? I would also like to build on these properties, but I'm being forced to pay property taxes for usage everyone in the area uses as a retention pond, which is more of a statement. So I guess if you can talk about the additional drainage and rectify the trapped water.
Sure. As far as the contention of trapped water, reviewed the original grading plan for the, when the development to the south went in, which was the mid-90s. That plan basically accounted for everything being captured in storm sewer and then transported via storm sewer to the south part of the site, south of the buildings where there's a retention pond. Got out to the site this morning and was reviewing that in comparison to the grading plan, and in my opinion, very little water leaves that site and gets to that low area. I would say just a little bit of this driveway kind of makes its way here. From this point, there's curb and gutter that catches everything that comes off the parking lot, brings it to an inlet, and then to that storm sewer. The other parking lot is downstream, but even that gets into a storm sewer and gets to the detention pond. So really very little water is leaving that site as it is today. And in fact, this is kind of the drainage way. And in this little white area here, that's some riprap stone. There's an inlet. So that water all makes its way into the storm sewer, and that travels downstream as well. So as far as there being promises that an acknowledgement of trapped water back when this developed, and a promise that it would be rectified, don't know if they have a name or who they talk to, but in our short investigation, we didn't find anything documented to that effect.
Then I'm going to read question 2, and if you can shed any light on that, be appreciated. Will the additional sewer and water loads on the mains be installed for our building purposes be placed on, let me reread this. Will the additional sewer and water loads on the mains we installed for our building purposes be placed at the main capacities as a result of the building project on the south side of Oak Street? And does this project in any way limit our ability to continue our construction on the north side of the street?
I would say the answer to that is no, because these buildings that are going in are very relatively small water users, so generate little sanitary sewer flow and use little water, so should have no effect at all.
Thank you. Hopefully we answered the questions for that resident. If anybody have any further comment, or call for a motion. Okay, motion on 6.
Kirkowski make a motion, council adopt ordinance number 2845, approving the rezoning of the properties at 331 and 401 East Oak Street from RS2 Single Family Residential to M1 Manufacturing with a conditional use for contractors' office, shops, and yards in a condominium development with no outdoor storage.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving right along, item 7 concerns the mayor and common council, and it's consider a motion. We have 3 options. A, to authorize a method and schedule of replacement for the second district alderman vacancy. B, to establish a response to the second district constituent concerns until the position is filled. And C, to determine whether or not to hold a special election on November 7th, 2017, to fill the unexpired term of myself, Daniel Bukevich, who vacated the second district to assume the role of mayor. So with that, I'm going to ask the city attorney to kind of sum up our options.
About this at our last meeting in terms of appointment of mayor to a large degree. It's the same statute, and unless I hear from the council that you would love for me to read that again, I will not do that. But the recommendation before you tonight is, again, a similar question as to the last meeting regarding the mayoral vacancy, which is, what does the council want to do? So options A, B, and C in terms of the recommendation are not, they're mutually exclusive in terms of, one, there needs to be some sort of a method and schedule of replacement. We need to figure out how to respond to second district concerns. And then third, determine whether or not to hold a special election. So the bottom line is, since former Alderman Bukevich became mayor on March 7th of 2017 at our last common council meeting, we have an aldermanic vacancy. So the statute lays out the same timeframes of which we had discussed and which did apply to the office of mayor in terms of that vacancy. So the second district aldermanic term expires in April of 2018. Under the statute, because the vacancy occurred after December 1st, the council needs to appoint an alderperson to serve for the balance of that term. So until April of 2018, when there would be an election. In addition to that December 1st date, because this vacancy occurred before June 1st of this year, the council again has the option, as it did with the mayoral vacancy, to determine whether or not it wants to hold a special election in November. So it's up to you. What method do you want to use in terms of selecting a replacement for the remaining term of office, so approximately a year? Because the office is up for that election in April, you can also have a November special election. In terms of aldermanic vacancies in the past, what the council has done for informational purposes, in 2003, in 2008, in 2012, in those situations, the aldermanic vacancies were filled using an interview selection process with an application or resume submitted. If the council has any other ideas in terms of a method of replacement and selection, that is up to you. So we're asking that you give direction as to these 3 pieces. And depending on what the direction is, I think staff has some options to further offer to the council tonight.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. At this time, we'll open it up for discussion with council. Alderman Kirkowski.
I would, like I was with the filling the mayoral vacancy, I would not be in support of a special election due to the short amount of time that individual would serve and costs involved. I would support a application process. We could set the dates for receipt no later than, give us all a chance to review them, have interviews, and then make a selection from the list of candidates. As far as responding to the second district constituents, I know that Dimity Grabowski, when she was alderman in 5th district, she covered the 1st district when Betty Copeland resigned, retired. So I would not, I wouldn't have a heartache with covering for the 2nd district. Either Dan can make the referrals to me, or he can handle them in the interim because he's from that area. That's my offer.
Mark?
I guess it goes pretty much along the lines of of what Steve just said. As far as the replacement procedure, I sat through a couple of those in years past and seemed to work out really well. And you get people that are really interested in serving, and that way the aldermen that are currently on the council here get a chance to see what kind of experience and what positives and negatives any person would bring to the sitting council here, I guess. As far as the special election thing, I would echo Alderman Kirkowski's thoughts as well, that I don't think it would be worthwhile because of the short amount of time and the cost. And I as well, because I bordered at the second district as well, and I'd be willing to take on any duties as well.
Thank you. Alderman Toman?
I would probably just echo the previous comments. I was here for the last, actually, I was the appointment in 2003, and that's worked out great for the city, so. I had to throw that one in there, get a laugh from you. But I was here for the last two also, and it played out well for the city. And I think the process worked. I would not support a special election because of that time frame again involved, and save the city a couple of bucks. We'll get the right person in that seat. I'm confident that'll happen. I did ask a question of the city attorney at the last meeting, just a hypothetical situation. If we go to the appointment process and we collect these resumes, it is a possibility we may only get one choice. And if we think that choice is way underqualified or would not serve the city well, are we obligated to take that person, or can that seat be left vacant?
Thanks, Alderman. Yes, I would say that if you are, it is up to the council in terms of the caliber, the experience, what this individual might bring to the table. It's up to the council. So my recommendation, my advice is, if you are not satisfied with the one candidate, we continue to, if we're going down the path of resume and interview, republish, continue to have it on the council agenda, continue to put it out there until this individual that you feel meets the criteria. I mean, it is analogous to a situation for employment in another business setting where you're looking for an individual that needs to meet the standard that you are seeking to fill this spot. So
Okay, that answers my question. So we are not obligated, if there's one applicant, to appoint that person on that night that we interview.
you are not. You can
Correct.
continue
Okay.
the process.
Good.
You can
Thank you.
continually solicit.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Alderman Gale?
Thanks, Dan. I echo my colleague's stance that I think the appointment process we went through with Mayor Scafidi when he was elected I think is very useful. It serves the residents of the second district to get someone from their district to represent them very quickly. Actually gives them a chance to essentially kick the tires on someone for a year, and then we'll face a full-scale election next spring for that post. So I would fully support an appointment and an interview process, much as Alderman Kirkowski suggested. And if he's willing and able to take the second district, servicing the second district citizens for the time being, so be it, and have at it.
Alderman Guzekowski?
Well, clearly, I think we should have a special election. No, not in the least. Just wanted to see your reaction here, so that's it. I got it at least, so. No, I concur with everybody. In terms of the filling the vacancy for the second district, coverage-wise, I too border it on the south side, so even if you want to split it in half, however it works, we can make it share the love, if you will. So, but I do support an appointment process, and maybe a look at a number. You have to have at least three applicants to potentially apply before you can potentially have an interview process, if it's worth the discussion or not.
Okay, I just want to add a couple of things. I think it's great. You guys are stepping up. As residents still have my number, they are still calling because I've represented the second district for 9 years. I will continue to take those calls, whether I'm the mayor or second district, because the important part is serving the citizens and moving them forward. But I do appreciate the 6th and 1st stepping up to do that. The one thing we would have to also consider is the timetable in which we do this and the means of advertising. So with that, I'm going to ask the city clerk to kind of put her 2 cents in as far as some of our options there.
Well, clearly, a special election wouldn't behoove the city financially. I also went through the application process for District 3 when Steve Scafidi was elected mayor, and I concur with the alderman, although it's really the council's decision. I think the application process runs very smoothly. I would need to know publishing dates and that sort of information, which I'm sure Attorney Carls will tell us how that works.
Well, I guess from my point of view, what I'd like to see is if this process could be done around April 18th. We have a council meeting on the 18th. If that person could be set in place, it's about the time we name boards and commissions. I think we would have enough time to advertise over the course of 2 weeks, and then we may have to call a special meeting to do the interviews.
I think we did a special meeting last time.
I think we did when the first district was vacant. We did it, and it was just strictly for those applicants, and we had about half a dozen. So
Dan, I'd urge caution around, especially the interviewing process with spring break and break around Easter. Make sure we take that into account for potential applicants.
that could be a consideration. I guess I'm looking at advertising means.
Yeah,
So we could obviously do city website, Facebook, the Now. Am I missing anything?
at this point, we'd have just about 4 weeks, depending on how you want to time the Easter situation.
I think the whole thing comes down to, can we give people, residents of the second district enough time to get their resumes together and get them into the city? So, Melissa, any comment?
Sure. I can give some additional food for thought to the council, just in terms of going through past processes, and I appreciate that the city clerk offered that up in terms of timetable, things to think about. I guess in terms of backing into an April 18 effective date, should the council make a determination at a special common council meeting for an interview process for any candidates. What I had marked out here is tonight we're having the discussion and anticipating that there would be a vote to proceed with this method, the resume and interview process. Then we would be able to announce the opening and process to be followed tomorrow morning in terms of posting on our website, in terms of then posting or linking, I defer to our experts on that, to our Facebook page, and then Twitter, whatnot from there. In addition to that, it's my understanding that we could certainly publish in the Now, perhaps for 2 consecutive weeks, perhaps for 1. But more importantly, it's my understanding there's certainly an option for us to actually have an article versus the classified type ad in terms of a publication that could be more prominent in the newspaper. So in terms of that, here's what you can mull over. If we did that, we could have notice, so to speak, as soon as tomorrow for certain of these pieces, looking at and having a template for past aldermanic vacancies. I think that we are ready to go in terms of making that happen. And then if there were a publication that were submitted this Thursday, that would be 1 or 2 weeks. And perhaps it could be that a deadline for applications would be submitted no later than April 7th at 10 o'clock in the morning, picking a time for drawing in terms of an interview time, and then notifying candidates in terms of interviews. It might be a quick turnaround but those are interested parties, and mindful of Alderman Gale's comments, and I think some nodding in terms of spring break potential. If the special common council meeting were to occur on April 10th, that would be the Monday before the April 18th regular common council meeting. That is a possibility. Monday evening, perhaps, to conduct candidate interviews and vote on the appointment. To Alderman Toman's point, we might not have our candidate that night either. But this would give a couple weeks out to submit those applications. And then if we go beyond, we go beyond. And that's just what it would be. And if April 10th, the council finds its candidate and approves that appointment, then the appointee could take office on April 18th at 7 o'clock at the next regular common council meeting. So,
Alderman Kirkowski.
I like those dates. I just wanted to let the rest of the council know that I want to be a part of this process, but on April 18th, on that meeting, I will not be here. I will be in Pennsylvania. So that leaves only four aldermen left. So we need all four of you to be there, to have a.
I think that was supposed to be the effective date.
Yes,
potentially,
but
Steve, so-
if we didn't do anything on Melissa's timetable and we pushed it back or something, I'm leaving the 17th. I'll be gone all week. So I just wanted to put in my personal
But you would
request.
be here for April 10th,
Oh yeah, I would be here for April
if
10th.
a
Yes.
special meeting?
Yep. About 7 o'clock would be nice.
I'm fine with the April 10th.
Alderman Gale.
I'm confirming on my calendar.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Yes, sir.
You're okay? I'll get a say so. So I'm okay with it. Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Verhaelen.
Oh, I'm good.
Fine.
good.
You're always here.
Send it.
Ken's calendar. Spence is killing us, Ken.
I also like Melissa's suggestion on the article. Instead of
I would
just an
agree.
ad, the article would call greater attention to it.
Eric's out there. He can
Yeah.
help us with that, and
Awesome.
Leslie can do the media stuff.
If we're gonna do it on the 10th, Dan, I'd actually prefer to do, start at 6 rather than 7, if we could agree to that.
If it's agreeable to the rest of the council, I don't have an issue. We'll make it
I can be
work.
there.
Mark? Steve?
I might have a problem with 6, but I'll see what I can do. I'm only in St. Francis, and it's softball, so quick game. I'm being honest. I mean,
6:30?
I could get here probably by 6:30. Yeah.
Okay. 10th at 6:30. If there isn't any other discussion, we will need a motion.
And then, sorry, Dan, sorry, Dan. We
Go ahead,
expect-
Andrew? You got
Just,
something?
yeah, just 1 second for the staff's clarification here. It would be helpful if you itemized what it is you wanted to receive from the candidates as well as the point person, whether that be the city attorney, maybe the mayor. I'd happily volunteer as well. Just let us know what you want from these folks, and we have the timeline down, but a point of contact as well as what submittal, what they would be submitting, I think would be helpful.
Catherine, Melissa, do you recall what we asked the last time? You know, for record?
yes, I can share that.
I believe it was resumes, right? And they filled out an application.
It was letters of interest and citizenship documentation, which often included a resume as well, were dropped off in person either at the city clerk's office or placed in the drop box for City Hall.
Of a letter of interest and, did you say
Citizenship documentation, proof of
Got it.
citizenship, yes. So, can I,
Yes,
point of
please.
order? Thanks, Mayor. I guess I would say this, not wanting to presume where the council would want to go, but some parameters that we've had in the past for the resume and interview process are the following. And feel free to interrupt me and append to this list as we go. Fill the vacancy in a timely manner while allowing it for enough time for interested candidates to apply. Seems to be consensus that we've met that. Limit the selection consideration to residents from within the boundaries of, in this case, the second district. Announce the vacancy and appointment process through, as we've talked about, the Now, the city website, any other recommended means of advertising, including publishing an article in the Now. Verifying citizenship and conducting a police record check for all applicants. Conducting interviews of all qualified candidates in open session. Asking all candidates the same questions. As a courtesy to other applicants, ask that any candidates remain outside the council chambers until their scheduled interview time, although we can't require them to do that. These would be open meetings. So some other guidelines or food for thought to that extent. I would suggest that any motion as to the A, B, and C for this item sound to be that we would be approving the resume and interview process to fill the second district aldermanic vacancy. We need to authorize whomever it's going to be as part of that motion to respond to second district constituent concerns until the position is filled. And I believe that the latter piece would be to not hold a special election on November 7th of 2017.
We need to indicate, unless you guys mentioned timelines, so if the application process is going to open this Thursday at noon, closes,
April 7th at 10
okay?
or a different date. They could certainly be submitted before then.
Oh, okay.
If the mayor chooses to still answer his district questions, is that, he can still do that?
Certainly.
If he chooses to?
Sure.
Is that
And
the
if
route you
there's-
want to go, Dan?
Yeah, I would be open to that. I'm going to accept the calls either way. People have been calling over the last week or so.
I'm fine with that.
I'm not going to tell them no, you know.
We're only talking 3 weeks
Alyssa,
anyway.
I'm assuming the citizenship documentation would commonly be that I-9 form. They have to provide proof of citizenship, right? No, well, when you get hired, you have to fill out an I-9. So right, that proves your citizenship, your ability to work in the country. So if that's the form that we're going to use, perhaps we can provide a link, because either that or you got to go somewhere to get the form or download it from the internet. You're not talking about an I-9 form, or are you talking about some other? Catherine, what form are you talking about then?
Don't require the I-9, so when someone runs for an elected position in the city, we require proof of citizenship, which is a passport, which is a birth certificate. I-9 would
Okay,
term of employment, so it would be proof of citizenship for this.
Do you make,
I stand corrected. Thank you.
verify residency of the district? So
With the
everyone
back-
knows better?
That would be with the background check, I would believe.
Okay.
Is that
Thank you,
a-
Catherine.
Is that a hard and fast rule that you have to be in the, I've heard that question come up before. If you're a block away from the second district, does that disqualify you automatically?
Well,
I know traditionally that's been the way it's, but that question has come up before. Do you have an answer on that one?
Well, it's up to the council how you want
Well,
to
you
handle
can
it.
actually be outside the district. I mean, I think
It's-
it,
to be elected,
think
you
that
have to
to
be
elect-
within the district.
I think that past practice certainly has been, yes, that it has been someone who has resided in the district. So,
My preference would be that you're within the district.
Stipulate that, Melissa?
we can stipulate that, and I would indicate that in terms of the motion, all of these parameters don't need to be included as part of the direction, but if there's consensus from the council to proceed under those parameters, then we as staff will work together to ensure that that's in place in terms of,
Prefer that.
I'm on board as well.
I agree.
Looks like they got to come from the second district.
Melissa, I had one other thing. Are we going to make any provision for if someone already has something scheduled for the 10th on a projected interview day to appear remotely, or do we typically do that?
I would say it's up to the council, meaning literally, if you think that that's appropriate, and I would suggest, depending on the reason, that's incumbent upon you to make a determination where, how wonderful if you had a whole slew of candidates where certain could appear by Skype or otherwise electronic means, but that's up to you.
Trying to think ahead because that is travel time.
With Easter week,
Yeah,
you mean?
give or take.
Vacation, people coming and going.
The other piece is in terms of direction tonight on these items, meaning method, response, special election. We can move on that tonight, it sounds, and then if you wanted to have another agenda item on
We could
the
talk
April
about it in the
3rd,
future, right? Depending upon if
Correct.
someone actually asked us if they could do
talk about and decide on whatever you want in terms of process.
that. We would not, I don't want to get ourselves out of line by allowing something after the fact. As you're comfortable that we could address that if we needed to?
I think we can troubleshoot as we go, as long as there's council consensus.
So when is our open date and close date, dates and times? Have we decided?
If I heard it right, the earliest you could apply would be tomorrow morning, because after the motion's made, applications would be.
We go live on our Facebook, right?
It would go live, well, as soon as we get it out there. And the deadline would be April 7th. And we could pick the time, whether 10 a.m. or closing of
Close of
City Hall
business?
that day. To your call.
April 7th is a Friday?
April 7th is a Friday, and then you are discussing,
Although we take a lockbox drop, though, according to the last one.
if you wanted to do that, and then you're contemplating also Friday to the next business day, the Monday, for the interviews, so you need to get communications out to those candidates in terms of scheduling slots and confirming availability. So part of that April 7th deadline was taking into account 2 publications and getting the sense that there's a recognition that publications in terms of public notice method may not be the best way of getting the word out, which is why we're using additional means. So that the second publication under this timetable would be April 6th. So if that really doesn't make a difference, you could have an earlier date for submission, or deadline, I should say, for submission.
I would think we would need them sooner. April 6th or
So-
5th.
Staff enough. April 6th at the close of business.
Close of business is 6th, that is Thursday. That would gives our staff one full day. And
Or do you want to, for lockbox, you could say before City Hall opens on the 7th. How are you going to determine if the lockbox, unless we check it at the close of business?
I think they would check it at the close of business.
Okay.
And that would be
All
it.
right, that's cool.
Catherine, what does your staff need
I think I agree. If you do April 6th, we do check the lock boxes for other time-sensitive materials. So we would do that in the close of 6th, and then we would have at least the 7th to communicate to the common council and the mayor and to the applicants, and get our paperwork in order so that you have time to review and the applicant has time to review the information.
Does that give enough time to publish the agenda, since it's going to be an open meeting and stuff like that on Friday? Does it meet the requirements?
For the meeting on Monday, you mean?
Yeah, for the meeting
10th?
on Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're taking, everyone who applies, I assume is going to get an interview, right? By that, under that standard?
How long of an interview window? Half hour?
to? They would all
10
have the
minutes.
same questions, so we'd have to come up with a series of the same questions.
This has probably got that in the
Yeah,
stack
that's
of stuff.
I've got a template of questions, and for consideration, perhaps we can circulate proposed parameters, template for questions, in anticipation of further discussion on the next agenda.
Because we will have a meeting on the 4th,
I
right?
actually think when we did the first district appointment, they were scheduled in 20-minute blocks, Mike? Yeah. Came in as scheduled on the appointment, and then they chose to. Oh, are we clear as mud on this now?
So close of business on the 6th for submission,
4 PM?
4
Can we
PM.
set a time or
Yep.
any other time?
Nope.
Does that work for the city clerk's office?
Yes.
Notice starting tomorrow morning. The opening of business is what, 7:30? 7 o'clock, what is it?
Let's give the media a couple hours to do it. How about 9 o'clock? Posting? A little more. Noon? Mark's the noon guy. How about noon? I mean, we have to give our staff some time to properly get this onto
Yeah.
Facebook and,
So Leslie, does that give you enough time?
When do the aldermen get to see the resumes? I mean, obviously before that Monday meeting, so when can that get to the aldermen? I mean, I don't want to read them the night of.
I would think you'd get them the 7th. And you'd have the weekend.
So,
Well,
is that good?
That would be my hope, is that if the deadline is the 6th, that we would be able to get all the materials to you so that you had Friday and the weekend
Good.
prior to Monday.
Good.
all right. Okay, we're gonna have Melissa sum up the motion. Or sum up what we talked about, and then somebody can repeat or concur.
Point of order, is there consensus then to have Mayor Bukevich respond to second district constituent concerns?
I'm gonna agree.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I believe that any motion would be to approve the resume and interview process to fill the second district aldermanic vacancy, and to authorize Mayor Bukevich to respond to second district constituent concerns until the position is filled, and to not hold a special election on November 7th, 2017, to fill the unexpired term of Daniel Bukevich.
Kowski will concur with the statement by the city attorney and make that motion.
I'll second. Guzekowski seconds.
Roll call?
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for all that input. I know it's tedious, but it is important, and it is important that we get it right going forward for the city's needs. Thank God, Arden, you're here. I thought you were going to not appear on my first meeting. I'm so glad you did it. Moving right along, item number 8, consideration of a resolution number 11804032117, urging state legislation to close loopholes that shift a greater property tax burden from commercial properties to residential homeowners. Andrew?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I know in your circles and through your information received from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities on a regular basis and through various groups that you're involved in, you hear a lot about this. I know you're familiar, but for the benefit of the folks in the audience as well as the benefit of the folks at home, I'll just summarize this new growing body of law in the state of Wisconsin and other states called the dark store theory or the dark store loophole. And that is predicated on a 2008 Wisconsin State Supreme Court decision in Walgreens versus the city of Madison. And the theory being advanced by large and small format retailers, successfully so, in many municipalities across the state and other states, is that the local property assessment process should include and give greater weight than ever to abandoned or shuttered or dark stores in nearby or adjacent neighborhoods or even communities when valuing a perfectly good, thriving retail store down the block. So store A, perfectly thriving in a very strong lease situation, should be, or at least some merit should be given to store B, a shuttered store, an empty box, when valuing the thriving store. It's problematic in that these retailers challenge the local government property assessments and have successfully done so, and they see large reductions in their commercial valuation. Unfortunately, as 70% of taxpayers are homeowners, the greatest burden from that reduction in the commercial valuation is felt on the residential homeowners in various communities across the state. So that's a problem, and that's the crux of why the staff is bringing forward this resolution for the council to act on to protect our that residential that shift to burdening more so the residential property owners in our community. And the league is very close to introducing legislation akin to legislation that the Indiana State Legislature has passed to help close this loophole. And we're asking the City of Oak Creek Common Council to do the same thing as many of our communities adjacent to us. 25 in total in the state of Wisconsin have passed a similar resolution, including many in the metro area here, to this effect. So with that, if there's any questions, I can certainly answer. Again, we have a significant retail presence, a significant big box retail presence in the city of Oak Creek, and we want to do what we can to guard against that valuation loss or shift moving forward into the future. So that's the crux of the resolution this evening.
Well said, Andrew. And just for reference, the ICC, it is a group of mayors, village presidents, what have you, throughout the county. They adopted this resolution 2 weeks ago, Monday. So, comment from the council? We do have one person wishing to speak on it. Mr. Dagner, I'd like to welcome you up, and I think you know the procedure.
Thank
Name and
you,
address.
Mayor. I see the problem with any brick and mortar stores today. If you could do it online and can pay thousands of dollars to fees, fine. That's probably cheaper. But when we have structures constructed for commercial use or industrial use, that construction does not mean it has to be used in a particular fashion. And as I understand it, it's personal property, and we know all this taxing of commercial properties is done by the state. But let me tell you what happened to me 2 decades ago when I had a problem in my location, in my home. I needed sewer. It was a failing. I needed water. And I had to have the roof replaced. So I submitted my application to the Board of Review. They said, we don't care how much you owe on your property. We don't care what is needed. All we know is that you have a house that's habitable, and that's what we're going to be taxed to. So I would say 100% vote for this particular thing, because that's the story I got from the Board of Review in Oak Creek. Why can't they use that same? Apparently, why can't the assessors use that same premise on commercial and industrial properties, just like they did to me? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mayor, just one more thing. I did use this analogy in the memo, and I should just state it here because I think it sums it up and puts it into very easily understandable terms for many folks. It's really akin to the foreclosure home down the street factoring into the value of your home. So where there's a property down the street that sells for, in a distressed situation, that sells for 20 cents on the dollar, that in this theory that the stores are using, the retailers are using, should decrease your property value as well. So just to sum up, a residential example, that's really the game being played here. So
Thank you.
Ken?
Yes.
Yeah, for folks out there, it was reported 2 days ago by the AP, Senator Dewey Strobel intends to introduce legislation. Thankfully, someone's going to step up and try and fight this battle, because Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce is actually, the state Chamber of Commerce organization is actively promoting this law, or this practice of challenging assessments at the local level, which unfortunately is going to significantly impact residential property holders, whether they like it or not, much as the personal property tax battle was focused on shifting a tax burden from business owners to residential. So you need a champion at the state level to actually push this thing forward, to actually head this off, because there is some very strong and moneyed interests actually advocating for this practice. We've already suffered in the city from some of these bigger boxes and retailers actually challenging assessments in the past years. So it is already come to bear on our tax base here in the city, and anything we can do here in passing this ordinance or advisory ordinance and resolution is going to help in the battle, because it is not going to be an easy fight to have enough state legislatures stand up and have the courage to face this, because obviously they're a large lobby group, large contributors to campaigns. So this will take some strong backbones at the state level to head this thing off. So anything you do, calls you can make in favor of this, advocating for this dark store policy would be much appreciated.
Well said. Well said. And again, as Alderman Gell alluded to, this will affect you property-wise. This really puts a big hurt on the city. This is kind of a no-brainer type resolution, but you do have to be active about it, because it will affect you personally, this particular bill they want to push through. So, any other discussion? Motion.
Bill move to approve resolution 11804-03 through 117, urging state legislation to close loopholes that shift a greater property tax burden from commercial properties to residential homeowners.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Great. Moving right along, motion to concur with the mayor's appointment for a traffic and safety commissioner, a 3-year term expiring 4/20/20. We did receive an applicant, Kevin Rokenbot. If I butchered that, I apologize. 2515 East Emily.
Thanks, Dan. Kevin actually, when Jim Ritz was selected as alderman, Kevin actually was in that interview process, so he's familiar and was a very qualified candidate at the time, and I would wholeheartedly support his appointment at this.
Anybody else? Motion.
Gail moved to concur with the mayor's appointment of the Traffic and Safety Commission for a 3-year term expiring April of 2020 for Kevin Rokenbrot, 2515 East Emily Avenue.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye. All right, moving right along, item number 10, consideration of a motion to approve the 2016 vendor summary report in the amount of $133,810 and the 2017 vendor summary report in the amount of $863,929.48 for a total amount of $997,739.49. Ken, this is usually you.
Bridget, anything you want to point out?
Yes, if I could have the council look at items 8, 9, 10, and 12. So I am moving as quick as I can and preparing for our audit right now, which will begin next week. And in that process, we realized that we did not pay out the taxing jurisdictions from the fund balance from TIF 4. And nobody was knocking on the door either. So these are these checks. That is why we have it dated back to 12/31/16 and why your vendor summary report has been split. So obviously the checks going out are on here. The city is receiving 46,000 into the general fund, so there was $180,000 at the closure of TIF 4 that we split based on the percentage of the tax rate to those overlying districts.
Excellent. Any other questions regarding the summary? Nope. Motion?
Gail will move to approve the 2016 vendor summary report in the amount of $133,810 and the 2017 vendor summary report in the amount of $863,929.48 for a total amount of $997,739.48.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving right along to Streets, Park, and Forestry, we have consideration of a motion to award 2017 play court improvement projects, performing repairs to the basketball and tennis courts in various city parks to the lowest responsive bidder, Frank Armstrong Enterprises, in the amount of $45,516. Seeing Ted Johnson moved his way to the front, we'll have him comment on it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This project we're actually excited about. It's come in slightly over budget by $516. We will cover that in our operations budget. This will actually do work at 7 different parks on 8 different courts. So 3 of the courts will be completely recoated with a new surface on them, and 5 of the courts will be crack sealed and repairs made to them and ready for a full coat in a following year. So it's going to be a good project for the park system, and we're happy with the contractor. He is actually the same contractor that we had do the court resurfacing at the Manor Market. And he did a very good job for us.
Alderman Gale.
Thanks, Dan. As chairman of the CIP and Alderman Guzekowski, Alderman Toman, we made a specific effort after several years of being, I think, having a tough time trying to find money to keep our existing parks in good repair. We made a significant effort to cover out some money to make sure that these neighborhood parks, which affect a lot of folks, see some love, some TLC out there. So I think they're important, and it's money well spent, and will impact a huge number of folks. So we appreciate your efforts there, Ted.
Thank you.
Else? Just a word of mention, very competitive bids. You got a very good price there, Ted. I will say this, I was a member of the Park Commission for almost 10 years. The Park Commission does do a tour of the parks in late spring or early summer. You'd be amazed at the number of residents and people that utilize these courts. So to keep them in good shape is really a great investment in the city. Kind of echo what Alderman Gale said. It's an important part of our city. We need to keep it up. So with that, motion?
You'll move to approve the award of the 2017 play court improvement projects performing repairs to the basketball and tennis courts in various city parks to the lowest responsible bidder, Frank Armstrong Enterprises, in the amount of $45,516.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving right along, engineering, resolution, consideration of resolution 1180203-2117, accepting the 2016 annual report for the Oak Creek WPDES stormwater permit.
Mayor, while the city engineer talks, I need to step out for a moment, please.
Okay. This time, is Mike, you taking that one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is the annual report that's required under our NR 216 permit, which is the sediment removal and stormwater management portion of that effort, funded wholly by the stormwater fee. Basically, the report summarizes the 2016 year totals for activities such as catch basin inspection and cleaning, street sweeping, detention pond inspections and maintenance, inspection of a larger storm discharge points for illicit discharge, erosion control permits, stormwater permits, and the like. It's a required report every year.
Any comments on the report? Have you had a chance to page through it, anybody?
Again, just for, and Mike and Ted's sake, obviously, we're spending a significant amount of money buying new street sweepers this year, and obviously, this is the significant piece of this report, and the amount of material actually kept out of our stormwater basins and stormwater detention ponds. So that's money well spent and much more efficient equipment.
And to that point, that you jogged my memory, Phil Biermeister, our stormwater engineer, informed me that we have now cumulatively removed over 4 million pounds of sediment from the roads.
So, but we did increase stormwater fee $4 this year to cover those street sweepers, but money well spent in terms of keeping our infrastructure in good shape.
Keep in mind, there's close to 5,000 catch basins within the city that were inspected and taken care of. So a lot of work went on the part of everybody to take care of that.
What kind of shape is that fund in now, Mike? What, do you have any numbers with you? Or I think it's healthy, but just for the public's.
I will defer to Bridget.
So we do have, second to last page of your report from Mike has the 2017 now approved budget that's in here. We are utilizing some transfers out into CIP in some further review while going through audit. We are actually not making the budgeted transfer out of stormwater into CIP because we have adequate funds already in CIP due to some low bids. So what you're seeing here is going to have a $200,000 higher fund balance. So, healthy.
Thank you. Else, Mark?
Just glad to see we move forward on purchasing the one new street sweeper. The ones we had were had a few miles on, getting old, so we were in line for a new one, and I'm glad we made the move, and as Ken said, it's money well spent.
Okay, seeing no one else, motion on 12.
We'll move to approve resolution 11802-032117, accepting the 2016 annual report for Oak Creek's WPDES stormwater NR 216 permit.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Moving right along, License Committee, they did meet on March 15th. Our minutes are attached and our recommendations are as follows. I will turn that over to Alderman Kirkowski.
Thank you. Item 13, Kirkowski make a motion to grant an operator's license to Patricia Halverson, 3765 East Van Norman Avenue, Cudahy.
Bill, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
14, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant an operator's license to Erica Oleden, 3651 East Putes Road, Oak Creek.
Bill, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye. 15, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant an operator's license to Caleb Sims, 6426 South 35th Street, Franklin.
Bill, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
16, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant a special event permit to Holly Martin for Performance Running Outfitters fun run events to be held weekly from 6 o'clock to 6:30 p.m.
Bill, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
17, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant a special event permit to Kevin Archambault Oak Creek Celebrations Commission for a community Easter egg hunt. Event scheduled to be held on April 8th, 2017 from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m.
Bill second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
18, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant a special event permit to Jody Ebinger Bentley, Michael Reed, Oak Creek High School for a Knights Against Substance Abuse run to be held on May 13th, 2017 from 8 o'clock a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m.
Bill second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
19, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant a special event permit to Christine Kowaleski, Oak Creek Tourism Commission, for a Dog Day at Drexel event scheduled to be held on July 15, 2017, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Bill second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Before you do item 20, we do have a resident that wishes to speak on it. I will grant her that. Eve Reichart, 9070 South 27th Street, Oak Creek. Please give your name and address for the record again, please.
I'm Eve Riker. We're at 9078 South 27th Street, Oak Creek. I know there's been a couple of events that this location wanted to do, and we live directly south of the building. We don't hear any noise violations. We think it's great for small businesses to get their income coming in, and we really think it would be a great idea, and we have no objections to it. We don't hear any noise problems. Nobody's rude or disruptful. I cannot speak today. Disruptful in our neighborhood, and those of us on the south end of the street are all for it. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much for your
You're
comments.
welcome.
Item 20, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant a special event permit to Chris Clausen, Boots Saloon and Grill, for a Boots parking lot party event scheduled to be held on May 27, 2017 from 2 p.m. to 9:15 p.m.
What's that? Before we do the roll.
Bill second.
Before we do the roll, comment?
Yes,
Alderman Verhaelen?
For FYI to the owners and lessees of Boots, we've got a memo here that with regards to the noise and regards to barricades being supplied, city's not going to supply the barricades. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because in years past, when there's been events at the establishment, there have been some complaints. We're just kind of being proactive here, just to be aware that all the safety stuff that you guys put out and stuff, you're responsible for all that. Noise with the events, hopefully we'll keep it under control. There won't be any complaints, but good luck.
Thank you. Roll call.
Alderman Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
And 21, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant a special event permit to Chris Clausen, Boots Saloon and Grill, for a Boots Car Show event to be scheduled on September 16th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., with the granting of this event permit subject to the applicant's receipt of a 2017-2018 alcohol license.
Bill second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
And item 22, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant an operator's license to the 12 individuals listed on the agenda. Favorable background reports were received.
Bill second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Just one quick comment on item number 22 and items, let's say that would be 13 through 16. Those are all new businesses to Oak Creek. It's almost 14 different people that are seeking employment for licensing here. So says a lot about how we're growing. Moving on, number 23, consider a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes, Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent G, to discuss the litigation the city is likely to be involved in regarding the levying of special assessments against 11 lots in the Willow Creek subdivision pursuant to Resolution Number 11779-122016. Ken?
Thank you, Mayor. Gail will move to convene in a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes, Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub G, to discuss litigation the city is likely to be involved in regarding the levying of special assessments against 11 lots in the Willow Creek subdivision pursuant to Resolution Number 11779-122016.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Is that Alderman Guzekowski?
I think it was
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
great. At this time, we will adjourn the meeting, and we will resume after close. We'll go into closed session, and we will resume
Gail moves
afterwards.
to reconvene in open session.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
And item 25 is a motion if action is to be taken, but I believe we will take none.
Kirkowski will make a motion to adjourn.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please get out there, discover what Oak Creek has to offer, and celebrate it. Thank you.